Hello, this is Marcelo Vignali. I'm going through the mailbag here, and I've got a question. Rather than answer the question with specifically to a person, I thought it would be best to go ahead and create a video because this is actually a question that I get, not necessarily a lot, but it does come up. Let me go ahead and reach into the mailbag here. And it says, how do you keep your motivation up when you keep trying your hardest and you can't seem to break through? So that's the question. So like, how do you keep your motivation up? How do you, especially when you don't seem, it doesn't seem like you're making a difference. Like you're working really hard, you're doing your schoolwork or you're doing your training and you're putting your work together, and you keep waiting for that big break. Somebody's going to hire you, somebody's going to bring you on board, you're going to be able to work as a professional artist, and you can't seem to make that break. Well, how do you deal with that? And I think that that's actually a question that is relevant to a lot of people, especially I would say just about every single person that goes through the industry. That's something that they face. Somebody, because they have to craft their skills and they work hard at it, and then there's the application. But sometimes you don't get those results right away. But it is a lot like an athlete, and there's that training that you do, that training that you're doing in the gym, and if you can work that in the gym, you go to your batting practice, or you run through your drills in football or in boxing. You spend that time punching the bag and working those skills. You do the work in the gym and you prepare yourself for that moment when you are going to be performing in your craft, and that's an important thing. But how do you do that day after day, month after month? Trying to make this happen, trying to make this happen for yourself, and that's where it gets tricky. So the important thing is that to just understand, it's not a decision you're going to be making every single day. You don't wake up every day and you say, today I'm going to be working at my goal. It doesn't work like that. What you need to do is you need to make the decision in a very sober moment, like right now. You make the decision, and then the rest of the time you're simply following through the decision. That way you don't have to keep making your decision over and over and over again. I was going to the gym and I was working out, I was pumping iron, and I used to get up at, I think it was like 5:30 in the morning or something like that, so I would get to the gym by 6:30. And people would say, like, how do you do that? How do you get up that early? And I thought, like, well, you only have to make the decision once. You don't have to make it every single morning that you wake up. You wake up and you open your eyes and you're like, oh, do I want to go to the gym today? Oh, I'm tired. Oh, I didn't get enough sleep. Oh, I didn't eat right. It doesn't work like that. What happens is that you made the decision months earlier or a year earlier, and you've got it in your head. You say, that's it. I go. This is what I do. This is who I am. I get up and I go to the gym. I go work out. So the same thing with art is that you don't have to keep making that decision over and over again as you struggle and you're like, oh my gosh, I've hit this wall and I can't seem to break through. I'm going to give up. And so you're constantly in this state of that you have to keep making that decision to persevere. You keep making the decision to keep moving forward. And I think that's probably where a lot of people really trip up. Let's say like when somebody's running a marathon, the same sort of thing. Do you make the decision at the beginning of the race that you're going to finish it? Or do you make it with every step or every turn or every hill? And you're like, oh, geez, I don't know if I can make it up this hill. You don't do that. And I think that that's the training that comes, that once you've trained as an athlete, you have this mindset. A lot of times people who do really well in business or in sports, well, I'm sorry, in business or in the arts or in a particular craft, are people who've dedicated and built that discipline in sports. And part of that comes from their, that training mindset where you make the decision once, and then the rest of the time you're simply following through. You simply follow through something that where you've already made up your mind. Like, this is what I'm going to do, and you get it done. I think that's a paramount key to your success, is that you have to define what your goal is. Like, this is my goal. This is what it's going to take to get there. And then you make the decision. Yes, it's worth it. I am going to make that decision. Once you've made that decision, then it just simply becomes a process of just following through, so that you don't have to keep making that goal. Sometimes you might want to write reminders, and you write out your goal, and you put it up on your bed, and you put it up on your work table. And that tells you, I've already made the decision. I'm going to work harder. I'm going to work, and I'm going to persevere. But here's another key and central aspect. I think the second part of this. So you've already made your decision. You've got the mindset that you're going to follow through with your goal. But the second part is that difficulty is like, how do you maintain that? How do you stay at that level? You've already made the decision. How do you stay there? And I think there has to be a reasonable expectation for yourself, because some days are going to be difficult. Like, let's say, you have to go visit a friend at a hospital, or take a family member to the hospital, and you didn't get enough sleep, and you get up the next day, and you have to go to work, and you come home from work, and you said, no, I'm going to be working on my project during this time when you get home from work. I'm going to work on my portfolio. I'm going to work on my skills, and you just don't have the energy to do it. Understand that, and be reasonable with your goal, that you have to be, that you're going to have, and this is a great phrase, a maintenance day. When I was working out, I had built these friends at the gym, and one particular fellow had this phrase that he coined. And I remember when I said, "Hey, how you doing, Reed?" And he said to me, he goes, "It's a maintenance day." I'm like, "What?" And then he went ahead and explained it to me. And he said, those days where you get out of bed and you're just not feeling it. You don't feel like you can push 100%. But it didn't matter, because he still dragged himself to the gym, and he was still going to go through his cycle. But the motivation wasn't there. The enthusiasm wasn't there. He wasn't going for his personal best. And that was a maintenance day. And I thought how powerful that is, because you're only going to hit your personal best and have some of these spectacular breakthroughs every so often. Most of the time, understand, most of the time, it's going to be a maintenance day. It's going to be where you drag yourself to your drawing class, or you drag yourself through your sketchbook drills, or you're going on a Zoom class to learn a particular something. And most of the time, it's going to be a maintenance day. And then just understand that. So that's what you're working, when you think of, that's how you're going to be working to your goal. So you've made your decision about what it is that you want to do, and you've made that once. You don't have to keep making it over and over again. And then the other part is having that reasonable expectation that says some days are going to be rough, and some days you're not going to be feeling 100%. And during that time, you're not striving for your personal best, you're going to do a maintenance day, and you're going to get in there and you're going to get done. And here's the funny thing about that. I remember sometimes I'd go to the gym, and I literally was just dragging myself there. Driving to the gym, I'm just not feeling, I'm exhausted. But once I was there and I started doing my push-ups and I started doing my pull-ups and I started going through my routine, suddenly my body started waking up, and I started feeling excited. And then some days those would turn into days where I was doing my personal best. And it's funny because it started as a maintenance day. Well, the same thing can happen for you with your training. Let's say you're exhausted. You're like, oh, geez, do I really, would I rather go out to dinner with my friends or go to that drawing class that starts at 9 p.m.? And you grab your gear. You're not feeling it. You think it's going to be a maintenance day. You grab your gear and you go because you already made the decision to go. You didn't make it that evening. You already made the decision 2-3 months ago that this is what you're going to do. And you go to your drawing class and you start drawing and you're kind of just not feeling it. And then suddenly something happens and this nice drawing comes out. And you're like, oh, that's actually one of my best. And you get excited. And then you do another drawing, and then you figure something out that you hadn't figured out before. It could be the way the body's interlocking and how the form is moving. And you're in a zone, and you start cranking out these drawings. That's what it's all about. And you're never going to know it if you didn't make that decision 2-3 months ago or a year ago, and you were persevering as you were working through, and you understood that you weren't always going to give your best and that you were going to do a maintenance day, and you dragged yourself to the drawing class, because that is when you give yourself the opportunity to allow this magic to happen, to allow this development to happen. And so when you think of like, how do you keep your motivation up? Look, this is just the fact of life. You're not going to be able to keep your motivation up, but you can keep your discipline up. You can make that decision and you can follow through with your decision, understanding that you're going to have a maintenance day, and you'll be surprised that during that time is sometimes when you get some of your best drawing days. And that's when you're really doing the development that you always hoped that you were going to do. And you start seeing the changes in your life, you start seeing the changes in your work, and you see the changes even in your person, because you're training yourself to be disciplined. And it's funny because some people think that you're either disciplined or you're not disciplined. But understand that even discipline needs training to be disciplined. So perhaps you're drawing, let's say, you want to draw in your sketchbook and say, I'm going to be drawing in my sketchbook every day. We'll start out maybe 2 times a week, and then bump it up to 3, and then bump it up to 5. And push yourself. And then at that point, you start to build that tolerance. So you have to develop even your own discipline. Understand that that's even a factor that you need to do. So I hope that helps. And I'm going to continue going through this mailbag and answer a few questions. Take care. God bless.